Just before we kick off the panel, just to remind everyone, we are taking questions through Slido. So please feel free to use the QR code there and get the questions going to the panelists. Right, we've heard obviously from Nexi and Mercedes Pay, but could you please make some quick introductions, giving your organisation, your name, and also your perspective on this topic?
Yeah, I can start. So I'm part of the Mastercard team. So thank you for mentioning Mastercard previously. And my area of focus is around everything we're doing around electric vehicle charging, which is a big topic at the moment. So I think we touched upon a lot of topics around mobility, but I think the future of mobility is around electric vehicle. And I think it's key that as an industry, we also kind of look at how we can support that industry around payments. So that's kind of my area of focus, and hopefully I can share some of the insight we're having on that space.
Thank you. Reinhard.
Yes, so Reinhard, I'm a partner from McKinsey's payments practice, and I lead a lot of our mobility payments work. So our focus is really, we're seeing a rapidly evolving digitizing market. Who's winning, what strategies are winning, and how can we actually help and scale those use cases further, both on the B2C, but also on the B2B side.
Thank you. André.
Hi, I'm André. I'm from Volkswagen Group Charging. Our brand name is Elli, and we are in charge of everything which is e-mobility across the Volkswagen Group for the brands Audi, Skoda, Cupra, Seat, and Volkswagen himself.
Okay, thank you. Right, I'm going to start, Reinhard, with you. Because you have produced a report some time ago talking about the size of the market here. Can you give some information on that?
Yeah,
please?
very happy to. So we published last year a report on B2B mobility payments and just updated some numbers internally. I think what's important to note, we heard lots of innovation. It sometimes feels a little bit nascent. But even today, we already have a market which in Europe alone is probably worth about 12 billion euros. That is fuel cards, this is tolling, we heard a lot about that. It's actually EV, which is rapidly expanding with more than 500,000 charging stations. But it's also areas like vehicle services, which falls into that logistics mobility. Importantly, that is probably growing up to 19 billion euros across Europe in the next 5 years. So actually quite a big number, and it's only B2B. So if you just assume some of the stuff, and again, we heard quite a few ideas how that may look like towards the consumer side, we're talking about a market which is more than a niche. It's actually one of the dominant verticals we see in payments.
Thank you. Okay. Michel, you spoke about, obviously, complexity. Came up a lot in your presentation. Mastercard mentioned the delineation, actually, between electric vehicle charging payments and car commerce payments. From a processing perspective, what are some of the differences and the challenges that you have to address?
It's a very, very good topic. We have quite often to explain to a customer that he has to pay higher fees because that's actually an online transaction. You know, that's a topic that maybe also for Itamar. Yeah, we have actually then the discussion that when we have, for example, an in-car payment where actually the card holder is present, but then we have to sign with the customer a kind of online agreement. And then the discussion starts, yeah, but the customer is, and the cardholder is present, but why do I have to pay now online transaction and an online transaction fee from Mastercard, etc.? These are the challenges we have there when we are talking to our customers then. But maybe Itamar can explain this topic.
So I can't comment on that, right? Because, but I think indeed to your point, I think those are two interesting topics. I mean, again, I just wanted to kind of point out that this whole electric vehicle charging industry is really booming. That in terms of payment, we see a lot of challenges, right? The industry is very fragmented at the moment. There is no universal payment method. I mean, I don't know how many of you here have an electric car, a hybrid car, and I'd like to know what your user experience is. Exactly. And I think as a payment industry, it's critical that we support the industry into moving to the right direction. And from the Mastercard perspective, we are working with the industry, with merchants. We are looking to educate them to show how card payment can be leveraged to make this user experience as good as possible, but also having this universal payment methods across Europe. Personally, I come from Belgium. I don't want to drive to France having to download a different app on the highways going on holiday. So I think this is what we're trying to achieve. This is one, I would say, immediate need from the industry to have the right infrastructure. But then moving forward, I think that what Mercedes is doing is obviously the future ideal user experience, that everything can be initiated from the car. And I think looking at the EV charging space, there's the right framework in place, the specific ISO standards. I won't get into the details, but the ISO standards that can facilitate how the payment can be initiated from the car towards the charging. And I think also from our side, this is the kind of thing that we also want to initiate. So I think the user needs to be at the center of this whole topic.
Okay. André, do you have a comment on this from a charging perspective?
A lot, especially when we're talking about fees in that moment. But that story is too long for here. From Volkswagen, we see separately. So the group is taking care of the in-car payments because of they manufacture the car. So, for example, if you need a seat heater for the cold months, you're buying this as a subscription on your dealer side. Let's call it so, on a manufacturer side. But if you charge up your car, then you are on my side in the payment sector. And there we are working. We are implemented in the different brand apps. We are taking care of the charging sessions over a 3-tariff model, but also we are presenting our own app, Elli, which is our own brand, to each vehicle driver outside of our Volkswagen Group universe. And in that case, I'm not totally on that way to use just only in-car payments. It's too hard for me at the moment to see this as the right way. I think we will have in the future different right ways on different countries, on different customers. Because when we see the German market, the German customer is very strict about data protection and something like that. So he would like to set up maybe the charging over the app, but the seat heater over the car or something like that. If you're talking about a Spanish customer, you have to talk about to this customer in a different way, like you talk with a German customer. So I think everything is possible in that case, but we will see in a very short time. My assumption is up to 3 years, which way the customer would like to go. If he is available for the in-car payment, then totally fine. Then we have to set up our strategy to this way. And also with the charging, that he charged the car over the fingerprint like Mercedes is doing at the moment. Or if he more working this way to work, I need to present an NFC card. I need to present my app or something like that, because of he needs to know where he should charge. With Elli, we cover 400K charging station, doesn't count who is operating this as a CPO. In the background, we are the technical CPO. So in that case, we cover for the customer the whole European region, and he can go from Letland to Spain with an e-vehicle without an in-car payment. I think that will be the next generation, from my point of perspective, for the cars.
Okay. And obviously we've got loads of questions coming through already, and some of them are straight for you, Eric, in terms of the Mercedes Pay offer. How does it differ from using the phone? And I think from a very personal experience, I have an electric vehicle. We have two issues. I can't travel that far without, running into range anxiety and all of that. But also, when I loan someone else my car, I don't necessarily want them to have my payment credentials. Obviously, your fingerprint technology eradicates that, but the payment credential is still there.
Well, it's hard to loan a finger. That's for
It's hard. It's hard.
We think about it though. So thanks first of all for all the questions. I think we'll at some point maybe have a separate session just on Mercedes Pay, because I see quite a bit of interest. So first to your question, I hope it's not a Mercedes EQ, because of course there you don't have to worry about the range anxiety. See, so that would be the first solution to your problem. Just buy a
I'll just
Mercedes.
add that my husband runs a number of Audi dealerships, so it's not a Mercedes. It's not a Mercedes.
I didn't understand. What's the brand? Sorry, sometimes I have trouble hearing. But no, in general, of course, that is a completely valid question, and some of these issues we're working hard on. So, so the topic of identity right now, the payment credentials are bound to your Mercedes Me ID, and with your Mercedes Me ID, you log in, for example, into your car, or into your app, or into whatever interface there is, and there you have stored credentials. That has a couple of really benefits to the consumer. We talked about complexity. Basically, what we did is when we store credit card credential or any payment credentials in your ID, you can purchase across the entire Mercedes-Benz ecosystem. So, of course, that drives conversion, but more importantly, it drives convenience. So that's the first point I would like to make. That is, of course, the most important aspect. And when it comes, so you have a point, but we're still working on the solution to really differentiate between numerous drivers, numerous users per vehicle. Right now, we're not there yet, but we are working very hard on finding the right solutions for that, because use cases will increase where people are sharing vehicles. But right now, our consumers are very happy with the solution right now, but we are already working on certain ways of improving the customer convenience, customer experience there, especially for the case where there are numerous users per vehicle. The other question was, what's better to purchase something through the car than through the phone? Well, first of all, it's forbidden to use a phone while you drive a car. Everybody knows that, and of course, I look around, everybody behaves that way, so none of you are using their phone. So first of all, it's forbidden. Secondly, we don't want that media break. That is not very convenient. So, for example, the parking example or the fueling example, that's another question. You drive to the fueling station, you don't want to take out your phone while you're sitting in our luxurious seats. You just want to have one tap on the info screen, on the head unit, and there you want to purchase the product, and you're done with it. You don't want to take out your phone. It's about convenience. And for us, to be quite honest, that's for the consumer. For us as a company, it's also about customer interaction. It is absolutely vital that this is our connection, this is our interaction with our consumers. And coming from a traditional sales model, to be honest, we don't have too many of those interactions. We're increasing that, of course. So for us, it's absolutely vital that we increase those interactions. But in the end, it has to be more convenient. If you think it's more convenient to take out your phone, that's your personal choice. You can still use the Mercedes Me app, for example, to do payments. We believe the most convenient and most seamless way is through the car. And quite frankly, our numbers, our transactions show that quite clearly, that our customers love in-car payment.
Okay, Reinhard.
Yeah, and maybe just to pick up on that one and to agree and disagree. I think you're completely spot on. So on average, we see payments is about 100 to 150 interactions with each person anywhere. So that's after social media, actually the most interaction a typical consumer has with anything. So to pick up on that one, it's absolutely great. I think the question going forward is actually a little bit of monetization and whether the consumer accepts it. I mean, there are a couple of really inbuilt channel conflicts. I think everyone agrees if we can get into the car and the parking takes care of itself, fantastic. If you go to a gas station, they want to sell you your coffee. They actually don't want you to stay in the car because there's stuff they can do with that on top. And then there are cases in between. I mean, again, the tolling example we heard earlier on, it's probably good for toll collect or telepass if you stay in the car. The question, are you going to pay for that one? So I think one of the key challenges we have seen is that the end consumer, at least at this point in time, seems to have a very limited willingness to actually pay for anything. So there's always a question, can you sub this up as some part of a subscription, and maybe with Mercedes in particular? Or will it be the merchant?
So for us, it's about customer experience. So we sell high quality cars. Our customers can expect first class service. So we don't. Our customers are expecting an included service. For example, of tolling, That way, you don't have to have one of those beautiful onboard units on your dashboard of your S-Class. That is not that's just not very stylish. Sorry to say to the Telebus colleagues. Might be stylish in other vehicles, but I think S-Class drivers would love to have it included. So it's all about customer convenience and customer experience. And again, the customer decides what is best for them.
But will it be that could be the bullet point in the future? So I'm a big fan. I don't know. Maybe the companies here. I like Pace, the Pace app, where I can stay in the car, use the gas station, fill up my car, press the button, and leave the gas station. But if in-car payment, like Mercedes is doing, and Volkswagen is also working on something like that, when you can stay in the car. In the future, the electric vehicle will be identified by the cable. So you can stay in the car, you can start the charging process. But you will reach the bullet point if you can go to the gas station, grab your coffee, and can pay this also over the in-car payments. That would be the amazing shit.
I like your style. I like your ideas. And let's just say we have similar ideas.
No, I just want to say that, I think you touch a good point, is that the future experience of fueling or charging is going to be different than what we have today, right? We have now those new hubs that are going to be built where basically you go, you charge your car, and maybe you have half an hour, 1 hour to spend, so you want to buy things. And I think whether you pay from your car or you pay from another payment method, that's based on how you guys develop that. But I think this whole future experience is going to be different than what you're currently facing because of the fact that EV charging, which is, again, as I said, probably the future, is a different type of experience with a longer, I would say, time spent that you have to spend at the station. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to see how you can enable me to pay my coffee or my sandwich from the car directly.
Yeah, or you take this point for the future, and then you will reach the customer experience, and then you will reach the in-car payments coming up to the customer journey if you are on the gas station. So in the future, you will... you at least need 10 minutes to upload your car, 20 to 80% with charging energy. And if you come on the gas station or on the parking spot or whatever, the customer has to stay this 10 minutes. So maybe I can also, over the in-car payment solution, order the coffee from my car, walk in, grab my coffee, go out, put out the cable, drive.
Okay. So from my perspective, a couple of angles here. So the first is we hear constantly about people fighting for the customer. They want the customer touch point. Reinhard, you obviously spoke about people wanting to get footfall into petrol stations so that people spend more money. Mercedes Pay saying, well, actually, if we complete the transaction in the car, people probably don't need to go there. I think the data that sits behind all of this, all of these transactions, how is that going to flow? Because actually there's a potential here to change business models from a media perspective as well. Anyone have a view on that? No.
Probably everyone would actually argue. I think the technical answer on a practical answer. Technically, with the new ISO legislation coming in, technical standard coming in, I think stuff is happening also to compare more between open and closed loop, and we actually would love to have your view on that one, where historically we just have seen a different level of data depth for the whole thing. But bottom line is we would fully expect, be it Mercedes, be it something VW or be it from DKV or from Shell, whoever, people are going to be more interconnected, we're going to see more geolocation data, and we're going to see more identifiers. So the identity part is probably going to become solvable in the future. I think it's more the question is who then owns the customer relationship and does something with that. But
yeah, that's every time a big discussion who owns actually, who is the owner of the customer. And we have also on our side in Nexi, we have a kind of nice product which is called Data Suite, where we offer to our customer more details about the customer. Of course, we only get on our side the card number, right? We don't get more as an acquirer, but we have some capabilities that we can actually, how should I formalize that? When we have just an example, you have 3-4 fuel stations in a city, and you as a customer, as a merchant, you have chosen the product data suite from Nexi, then you can actually see where this customer, this card number, is also charging and also taking fuel. So there we have an aspect where we try to give more information to our customers. But actually, it's quite a challenging question for us to answer, yeah.
But I think on this point, I mean, data is, I think we can have a session on data. And I think on the Mastercard side, there's a whole strategy of how this all transactional data can be leveraged. And I think it was touched upon this morning when Maria presented on our overall Mastercard strategy. So I think data can be definitely leveraged in different ways. I think maybe one of the challenge to what you mentioned regarding closed loop versus open loop, and actually I had the discussion earlier with someone from the EV industry, is to see how we can provide the same type of data to the industry, to the ecosystem that they're currently getting on the closed loop environment from the open loop. And this is something, again, I think as an industry, we need to kind of figure out how this can be solved. So I think, on the data, there is on one side, what insights can you provide to merchants in general? On the other side, how can you also pass on information from the transaction processing way? And that's something that, again, we're working on and we'll figure out very quickly.
Okay. Right, let's take a look at some of these questions. So, as the automotive industry goes towards car sharing, how does this translate to fingerprint payment and payment history? So we spoke previously about subscription models, and in the presentations we've heard about subscribing to particular features. But what about subscription for cars? You know, just no longer owning cars, if that's bearable for car brands to think about.
I think Sixt was starting something there. I heard this 2 weeks ago on another conference where also Stephanie was there. That could be an option. I know we or the group is thinking about of something like these, and you have good potential in the employee side where you can start to do some sandboxing, to test something, how the employee is reacting on subscription on cars, something like that. And I think one close loop to this is to sell cars over subscription model to the car sharing models. That everybody, we have in Hamburg, I live in Hamburg, we have in Hamburg some service where you can offer your car to other people and it's covered by the insurance of the company who's taking care of everything. So my personally car can be used as a car sharing in Hamburg.
Yeah, I mean, we have a similar solution. So what we can, of course, we have, for example, with your Mercedes Me app, you can just share your key to somebody else without actually handing over that key digitally. So that's a very, very neat and easy to use solution when it comes to, so that's for private car sharing with your neighbor, with your colleague, partner, whatever. But then, of course, your question towards subscription for cars, we do offer that for certain markets. That really depends on the use case, on the market preferences, on the customer's preferences. So where it is wished by our consumers, we do offer that. But we offer all types of ownership, leasing, financing, whatever is really needed there. That is that. And then, of course, you log into your Mercedes Me account, and then you can purchase or buy something. It's always you travel around the Mercedes-Benz ecosystem with your Mercedes Me ID, and there's your payment details. There's everything you need to have. So that's one solution to that particular problem. Okay. I do believe that Ralph from CompuTop has asked quite an interesting question as well.
The one in
Can I make one, Eric? Can I just make however one comment? And I think you both were very positive on subscription. I mean, it's actually interesting whether the car industry specifically has actually convinced consumers on the benefit yet. So I mean, if you ask historically, people always wanted to own their cars, and it's interesting. So leasing rates in Germany, for instance, are really, really high, and people have gotten convinced that leasing is actually for many a cool idea. I think one challenge I would always give out, where we're not there yet, I think subscription and all the benefits you described, personally completely agree. I think what we're still hearing is the consumers are skeptical. Why do I have to? I mean, there was a small scandal with another company, not on this here. Why do I have to pay for my seat warmer if they're actually installed? And I think here, this is more a question for the industry. How can we tell consumer more, well, you're actually getting effectively 20% discount, and you get the chance later on to get something additional on top of that. And I would just highlight, we are not there yet. I think we gotten a little bit of a subscribe by that one, by the way, on car sharing, which really took a hit due to COVID. That also has to be said, and a lot of those business models are under a lot of pressure. But it's going to be very interesting how that's developing. Even so, the future feels very clear, but we're not quite there yet.
Okay. Eric, I just wanted to pick up on something. So you spoke then about car sharing of keys. So in the UK, it's rife. Ghost and leech attacks. Cars are being stolen left, right and centre off people's drives. And we're told to buy Faraday cages and put our keys in the microwave and all sorts of weird and wonderful solutions to that. With all of this additional technology being put into these cars, which, by the way, the future looks fantastic, doesn't it? It's going to be seamless and hyper-personalised and all of that. That looks great. But there must be some limitations from a security and then potentially a safety perspective. So your bank card gets hacked or your bank account gets hacked. It's annoying, but there's recourse and you can get back up and running. If features on your car get hacked and breached, that becomes a public safety issue. So how are you as car brands working with chip vendors and the security ecosystem to ensure that actually there is that level of protection?
Super easy question. Also, for payments, it's super easy to answer, of course. So I don't have all the knowledge about how not to hack a car, but what I do know is that we work. That's why we have selected partnerships with chip manufacturers, with cybersecurity firms, because indeed that is absolutely critical. It becomes a public safety issue if your car gets hacked. When it comes to payment, of course, we have the same payment rails as all other e-commerce transactions. So it's the same level of fraudulent transactions. So far, we don't see a lot of fraud, to be quite honest, and we don't expect that. But when it comes to the actual car's hardware, we're taking incredible steps to safeguard that. They're so incredible that I don't know any of those. I just believe my colleagues in the research and development department, but we are very, very, very sincere about this. Because, again, we are a luxury company and we provide first-class cars. We cannot allow that to happen at all.
Yeah, okay. So we are heading towards the end, but I just wanted to ask a little bit more about the future. When do we think that these visions will become, mass market? In the UK, we've got aggressive targets around electric vehicles, 2029. And if I stand here as a, British citizen driving an electric vehicle at the moment, I can't see it ever happening to a point where we have an infrastructure that really supports that vision. So what's your perspective? What do you think? How far away are we from having this utopia of these connected electric vehicles that deal with everything for us?
Maybe I can start here. Because in our group we also have the Nordics, right? And when I have a chat with my dear friends, especially in Norway, I'm not 100% sure whether the date is correct, but what I've understood that it's still possible now to buy a fuel car, but it's the end is probably very, very soon. I'm talking about months. So when I see what's going on there in the Nordics, I would say that within 10 years, so from now on, after 10 years, I'm not sure whether we will still see a lot of fuel cars.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, for us, talking about electric cars, it's quite clear for us. Mercedes-Benz has committed that electric vehicles are the future, and we will produce electric only in the foreseeable future. So we're in the middle of that transition, and we're very 100% clear on that. Electric vehicles is the future, but also we know that our customers expect, again, a good level of service level, convenience, seamlessness when it comes to charging. So we're doing two things. First, as others as well, we're working with charging aggregators, but also we're building up our own charging network. To the other question, connected cars, that's a reality. It's not a vision. It's all live. It's all there. We're rolling it out market after market, use case after use case. As you heard, 1,200 merchants already live. We're pushing this, and this is coming at an incredible speed.
Great.
I think on the electric car, I mean, I can't say, but if you look at the regulation, I think the European Commission has put a deadline by 2035. All new cars sold need to be outside of the combustion engine. So that's the objective from the European Commission. So I think it's important that the industry builds the infrastructure to support that. Otherwise, it won't pick up. And I think as much as we can do, because we are, I would say, payments companies, the influence that we can have is just to support those companies into building the right payment infrastructure, be it on the physical charging station or on the in-car environment, so that we can support this trend. But I think 2035 is the end goal at the European level, so hopefully we can reach that.
Slightly nuanced view here on the two things. So I think everything on passenger cars completely agree. I would just point out, if at the moment we're going to trucks, even 2030 or 2035, the view is going to look different for a long list of reasons I'm getting into trouble if I go into. Conversely, if we actually look at the amount of connectivity, the B2B space, be it fleet or be it truck, is in many respects always going to be more advanced because the business need is there. And I would even make a small difference between premium and mass market brands, where the terms of monetization, how do you make sure all what you're building convenience, I think you may have a slightly easier time to say it's included as part of your service package than if I'm going towards some other brands which may not actually be able to go and really completely monetize all of that.
Okay, André?
I totally agree what my colleagues are saying. I don't see 35 as the real year because of the German government is now negotiating some other doors. We know this from the press. But I think there are no two minds in that. We have to change because of sustainable mobility, because of our environment. I don't see this in a very short time, but on a long term, I hopefully that the mind of the consumer is changing in the future. But we have a lot of questions in front of us, like pricing, like charging stations across. The problem is the customer. One time every 5 years, he's driving from the north of Germany to the south of Europe. Just one time in 5 years. But with a gas car, I can do this every day. I don't do this, but I can. And that's the mind we have to change.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. Eric, you wanted one more point.
Yes, just to add, because there are a couple of questions towards us. In the first and second row, there are my lovely Mercedes Pay colleagues. So if you have any questions, you can also ask them.
And buy a car.
And of course, buy a Mercedes-Benz car.
Okay.
We also have good cars.
Who's that?
All right, so thank you very much to the panel. It's been really entertaining and really interesting, and here's to the future of mobility. Thank you.